The stagecoach lurched to a violent stop outside Florence, Arizona territory, throwing Delilah Preston against the worn leather seat hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. And as dust settled around the wheels, she wondered if accepting a teaching position in the middle of nowhere had been the worst decision of her 22 years. The driver's gruff voice called down from above. "Florence, miss. End of the line." Delilah gathered her carpet bag and straightened her navy traveling dress, now covered in a fine layer of desert dust. She stepped down onto the packed earth, squinting against the harsh afternoon sun of June 1882. The town sprawled before her, a collection of adobe buildings and wooden structures that seemed to shimmer in the heat. Mountains rose in the distance, purple and imposing against the cloudless sky. "Miss Preston." A weathered man with a silver star pinned to his vest approached. "I'm Sheriff Morgan. The school board asked me to meet you and show you to your quarters." "Thank you, Sheriff." Delilah managed a smile despite her exhaustion. The journey from Boston had taken 3 weeks, each mile carrying her further from everything familiar. "The schoolhouse is just down the main road. We have living quarters attached for the teacher. Nothing fancy, mind you, but it's clean and secure." He picked up her trunk with surprising ease. "How was your journey?" "Long," she admitted, following him past a general store, a saloon, and what appeared to be a blacksmith shop. "But I'm grateful to be here. I've been looking forward to meeting my students." The sheriff's expression grew somber. "About that, miss, we need to discuss something. The school board wanted me to explain the situation before you settle in." Delilah's stomach tightened. "What situation?" "We've got about 15 children who need schooling, ranging from 6 to 14. But there's one student who's been particularly difficult since his mother passed." The boy's father, Adam Miller, owns the largest cattle ranch in the area. The boy's name is Thomas and he's 8 years old, been through 3 teachers in the past year. "I see." Delilah set her jaw with determination. "What happened to his mother?" "Died giving birth to their second child about 18 months ago. Baby didn't make it either. Adam's been running that ranch alone ever since, raising Thomas by himself. The boy's angry at the world and I can't say I blame him, but he's made teaching in Florence nearly impossible." Last teacher left in tears after Thomas released a rattlesnake in the schoolhouse. Delilah stopped walking. "A rattlesnake? Don't worry, it was dead, but still caused quite the commotion." The sheriff resumed walking. "Adam's a good man, one of the best. He's tried everything with the boy, but he's at his wit's end. Works from sunup to sundown trying to keep that ranch running. If you can reach Thomas, you'll have earned the respect of everyone in Florence." They arrived at a modest structure with whitewashed walls and a bell tower. The schoolhouse was larger than Delilah had expected, with windows on each side to let in light and air. The attached living quarters consisted of a small bedroom, a sitting area, and a kitchen with a wood stove. "It's perfect," Delilah said, meaning it. After sharing cramped quarters with 3 other girls at the teaching college, this felt like a palace. "You start Monday. That gives you 3 days to settle in. If you need anything, my office is across from the general store." The sheriff tipped his hat. "Welcome to Florence, Miss Preston. I hope you'll stay longer than the others." After he left, Delilah unpacked her belongings, arranging her few books on a small shelf and hanging her dresses in the narrow wardrobe. She had brought her mother's quilt, the only thing she had left after her parents died in a fire 2 years ago. Spreading it across the bed made the room feel more like home. That evening, she walked through the empty schoolhouse, imagining it filled with children's voices. 15 desks of varying sizes were arranged in rows. A blackboard dominated the front wall, and a large map of the United States hung beside it. She found chalk, slates, and a few worn primers in the teacher's desk. Saturday morning brought a knock at her door. A plump woman with kind eyes and graying hair stood on the threshold, holding a basket. "Miss Preston, I'm Martha Hendricks. My husband owns the general store. I brought you some supplies to help you settle in." "How thoughtful. Please come in." Delilah ushered her inside. Martha set the basket on the small table. Fresh bread, some preserves, coffee, and a few other necessities. "I also wanted to invite you to church tomorrow. Good way to meet folks before school starts." "I'd like that very much." Delilah poured water into her kettle and set it on the stove. "The sheriff mentioned I might face some challenges with one of my students. Thomas Miller." Martha sighed. "That poor child, and poor Adam. They were such a happy family before Sarah died. She was my friend, you know, sweetest woman you'd ever meet. Adam loved her something fierce. When she died, something broke in him. He still functions, still runs the ranch, still takes care of Thomas, but the light went out of his eyes. It must be terribly difficult for both of them. Adam hasn't been to town much since the funeral, sends his foreman for supplies. I think being around people reminds him too much of what he lost. And Thomas acts out because he doesn't know how else to express his pain. He's just a little boy who wants his mother back." Martha accepted a cup of tea. "But I didn't come here to burden you with sad stories. I came to welcome you and let you know that most of the children are eager to learn. Don't let one troubled boy discourage you." Sunday morning, Delilah wore her best dress, a dove gray cotton with pearl buttons, and walked to the church with Martha. The small building filled quickly with families. Delilah was introduced to so many people that names and faces blurred together. She met parents who expressed hope that she would stay, who spoke of their children's excitement about having a new teacher. As the service began, the door opened. A tall man entered, a boy at his side. Even from across the room, Delilah could see the man's striking features. Dark hair that brushed his collar, broad shoulders that strained against his Sunday shirt, and a face that might have been carved from stone. The boy was a smaller version of him, with the same dark hair and strong jaw, but where the man's expression was carefully neutral, the boy's was openly defiant. "That's Adam Miller and Thomas," Martha whispered. Delilah couldn't look away. Adam Miller moved with a quiet confidence, seemingly unaware of the sympathetic glances directed his way. He and Thomas took seats in the back pew. Throughout the service, Delilah found her attention drifting to them. Adam sat perfectly still, his eyes fixed forward, but she had the sense he wasn't really present. Thomas fidgeted constantly, earning occasional warning glances from his father. After the service, Delilah stood outside with Martha, meeting more townspeople. She noticed Adam and Thomas heading toward a wagon, clearly intending to leave quickly. "Mr. Miller," Martha called out. "A moment, please." Adam stopped, his hand on Thomas's shoulder. Up close, he was even more striking, with eyes the color of dark honey and lines around his mouth that spoke of both laughter and sorrow. He looked to be in his early 30s. "Martha." His voice was deep, rough as gravel. "I wanted to introduce you to our new teacher. This is Miss Delilah Preston. She'll be starting at the school tomorrow." Delilah extended her hand. "Mr. Miller, it's a pleasure to meet you." He shook her hand briefly. His palm was calloused, his grip firm but careful. "Miss Preston, I hope Florence treats you well." He paused, then added, "Thomas will be in your class. I'm looking forward to it." Delilah looked down at the boy. "Hello, Thomas. I'm excited to be your teacher." Thomas stared at his feet and said nothing. "Thomas." Adam's voice held a warning note. "Where are your manners?" "Don't want a teacher," Thomas muttered. "They all leave anyway. That's enough." Adam's jaw tightened. "Apologize to Miss Preston. It's all right," Delilah said quickly. She crouched down to Thomas's level, not caring that her dress touched the dusty ground. "You're right. I am new and I know other teachers have left. But I came all the way from Boston because I want to be here. I want to teach you and the other children. I'm not planning on leaving." Thomas looked at her then, his dark eyes assessing. "That's what they all say." "Thomas, that's—" Adam began, but Delilah held up a hand. "He has every right to be skeptical. Trust has to be earned." She met Thomas's gaze steadily. "I'll make you a deal. Give me a fair chance, come to school and participate, and I'll prove I'm different. If after a month you still want me to leave, I'll listen to your reasons. But you have to really try. Is that fair?" Thomas frowned, clearly not expecting this response. "I guess." "Good." Delilah stood, brushing dust from her skirt. "I'll see you tomorrow morning, Thomas." Adam was staring at her with an unreadable expression. "That's a bold promise, Miss Preston. Teaching in a place like Florence isn't easy." "I didn't come here because I wanted easy, Mr. Miller. I came here because I wanted to make a difference." She met his eyes directly. "Your son deserves a good education, and I intend to provide it." Something flickered across Adam's face, too quick to identify. "We'll see. Come on, Thomas. We have a long ride back to the ranch." As they walked away, Martha chuckled. "Well, you certainly don't lack courage." That's the most I've heard Adam say to anyone in months. Monday morning arrived with a flutter of nervous anticipation in Delilah's stomach. She arrived at the schoolhouse an hour early, writing the day's lessons on the blackboard and arranging materials on her desk. At 8 o'clock, children began arriving. Most came on foot from homes in town, chattering excitedly. A few rode horses or came in wagons from outlying farms. Thomas arrived last, alone on a spotted pony. He tied the horse to the hitching post and trudged inside, taking a seat in the back row. Delilah rang the bell and waited for the children to settle. "Good morning. I'm Miss Preston, and I'm delighted to be your teacher. I know change can be difficult, but I hope we'll have a wonderful year together. Let's begin by introducing ourselves. Tell me your name, your age, and one thing you enjoy doing." The younger children went first, shy and eager by turns. As they worked through the group, Delilah made mental notes about each student. When it was Thomas's turn, he crossed his arms. "Thomas Miller, 8. I like being at the ranch." "What do you like about the ranch?" Delilah asked. "Everything. Better than being here." Some of the other children giggled nervously. Delilah simply nodded. "Ranching is important work. Perhaps you could share some of what you know about it with the class sometime. I'm sure many of your classmates would find it interesting." Thomas looked surprised but said nothing. The morning proceeded smoothly. Delilah divided the children by ability rather than age, creating reading groups and mathematics assignments suited to each level. She discovered that Thomas, despite his attitude, was actually quite bright. When she called his group to the front for reading, he stumbled through a passage at first, but with gentle encouragement, he finished competently. During the lunch break, most children ate outside under the shade of cottonwood trees. Thomas sat apart from the others, eating quickly before wandering toward his pony. Delilah followed him. "Thomas, lunch period isn't over yet. You need to stay on the school grounds." "I was just checking on Patch." He stroked the pony's nose, making sure he has water. "That's responsible of you." Delilah examined the pony. "He's beautiful. Have you had him long? My pa gave him to me for my 7th birthday. Before." He trailed off. "Before your mother died," Delilah finished gently. "You must miss her very much." Thomas's hand stilled on the pony's neck. "I don't want to talk about it." "That's all right, but if you ever do want to talk, I'm a good listener." She paused. "You're doing well today, Thomas. I can tell you're smart. Your mother would be proud." He looked at her sharply, eyes glistening. For a moment she thought he might cry or lash out. Instead, he turned back to his pony. She used to help me with my letters. She said reading was important. She was right. Reading opens up entire worlds, Delilah smiled. I have a lot of books. Maybe you'd like to borrow one sometime. Maybe. It was barely a whisper. The afternoon passed without incident. When school ended at 3 o'clock, Thomas rode off without a backward glance, but Delilah felt they had made progress. The first week continued in much the same way. Thomas participated minimally, but caused no disruptions. The other children thrived under Delilah's patient instruction. She discovered a love for teaching that exceeded even her expectations. Each small victory, each moment of understanding in a child's eyes filled her with purpose. Friday afternoon, she was cleaning the blackboard when she heard horses outside. Through the window, she saw Adam Miller dismounting from a large bay gelding. He tied the horse next to Thomas's pony and approached the schoolhouse. Delilah stepped outside to meet him. "Mr. Miller, is something wrong?" "I came to pick up Thomas. Figured we'd ride back together." He removed his hat, revealing dark hair dampened with sweat. He looked exhausted, she noticed, with shadows under his eyes. "Also wanted to check on how his first week went. He doesn't tell me much. He's been doing well. No problems at all." Delilah chose her words carefully. "He's very intelligent, though I think he could apply himself more, but that will come with time." Adam's shoulders relaxed slightly. "That's better than I expected. The last teacher said he was unteachable." "No child is unteachable. Some just need more patience and understanding than others." She saw Thomas emerge from the schoolhouse, lunch pail in hand. "Thomas has experienced a tremendous loss. It's natural for that to affect his behavior and his ability to focus. You seem to understand a lot about loss." Adam's gaze was penetrating. "I do. I lost both my parents 2 years ago." The words still hurt, but less than they once had. "So I know that grief doesn't follow a schedule or express itself politely. It's messy and painful, and it takes time." Something in Adam's expression shifted, a crack in his carefully maintained wall. "I'm sorry for your loss, and I for yours." They stood in silence for a moment, a strange understanding passing between them. Thomas reached them, looking surprised to see his father. "Pa, what are you doing here? Thought we'd ride home together." "That all right with you?" Thomas shrugged, but Delilah saw pleasure in his eyes. "I guess. Miss Preston says you've been doing well this week." Adam placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "I'm proud of you for trying." Thomas ducked his head, but a small smile tugged at his lips. "Can we go? I'm hungry." "In a minute." Adam turned back to Delilah. "Thank you, Miss Preston, for giving him a chance, for giving us both a chance." "It's my job, Mr. Miller, and my pleasure." She meant it. As they rode away, Thomas talking animatedly to his father about something that happened at school, Delilah felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the Arizona heat. The following weeks fell into a comfortable rhythm. Thomas gradually became more engaged in his lessons, even volunteering answers occasionally. The other children flourished. Delilah established a lending library with her personal books, and was delighted when several children, including Thomas, began borrowing them. Adam came to pick up Thomas most Fridays. Each time, he lingered a bit longer, asking about Thomas's progress, discussing the boy's strengths and challenges. Delilah found herself looking forward to these conversations. Adam was intelligent and thoughtful, and when he spoke about his son or his ranch, animation replaced the stoic mask he usually wore. One Friday in late August, Adam arrived earlier than usual. Through the window, Delilah saw him sitting on his horse, watching the children play during their afternoon break. When school ended and the children dispersed, he dismounted and approached. "Mr. Miller, you're early today. Finished my work sooner than expected." He glanced at the schoolhouse. I was watching Thomas play with the other children. I can't remember the last time I saw him laugh like that. Delilah smiled. He's been making friends. He and Billy Harper have become particularly close. I noticed. Adam's expression was wistful. He's been different at home too, talks more. Smiles occasionally. I think you're reaching him in ways I couldn't. You're his father. Your influence is far greater than mine. I'm just helping him with schoolwork. You're doing more than that. Adam met her eyes. You're helping him heal, and I'm grateful. The intensity of his gaze made Delilah's pulse quicken. She found herself noticing details about him. The way sunlight caught golden highlights in his dark hair, the strength in his hands as he held his hat, the depth of emotion in those honey-colored eyes. Miss Preston. Thomas ran up, breathless from play. Can I take that book about King Arthur home this weekend? I'm almost finished with the one about Robinson Crusoe. Of course. It's on my desk. As Thomas raced inside, Delilah turned back to Adam. He's become an avid reader, goes through a book every few days. His mother loved to read, used to read to him every night. Pain crossed Adam's face, quickly suppressed. I try, but I'm not very good at it. Long days make me too tired. Reading aloud takes practice. Perhaps Thomas could read to you sometimes. It would help improve his skills and give you both something to share. That's a good idea. Adam paused, seeming to struggle with something. Miss Preston, I wonder if I might ask you something. Certainly. The ranch is about 5 miles outside town. It's a long ride for Thomas every day, especially as winter approaches. In the past, when weather was bad, he just missed school. But now that he's actually learning and enjoying it, I don't want him to fall behind. He shifted his weight. I was thinking of hiring someone to stay at the ranch during the school year, just to make sure Thomas gets to school safely and has help with his lessons in the evening. I wondered if you might know someone suitable. Another teacher, perhaps, or a governess. Delilah considered. I don't know anyone specifically, but I could ask around. What sort of person are you looking for? Someone patient, educated, good with children, he paused. Someone like you, actually. Her heart skipped. Mr. Miller, I have a schoolhouse full of children to teach. I couldn't possibly. No, I didn't mean you specifically. I just meant someone with your qualities. He ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated. Though I suppose if you were interested, you could continue teaching from the ranch. We have plenty of room. Thomas wouldn't have to ride so far. You'd have your own quarters, complete privacy, and I'd pay you more than the school board does, I'm certain. The offer was tempting. The living quarters at the school were cramped, and the isolation sometimes felt overwhelming. But living at the ranch with Adam and Thomas seemed improper, despite his assurance of separate quarters. I appreciate the offer, but I don't think it would be appropriate. People might talk. Let them talk. I'm offering you a job as a governess and teacher. There's nothing improper about it. His jaw set stubbornly. Think about it at least. You'd have more space, better amenities. Our cook would prepare your meals, and you'd be helping Thomas more than you could from town. I'll think about it, she promised, though she had already mostly decided against it. Thomas emerged with the book clutched to his chest. Ready, Pa. As they rode away, Delilah couldn't stop thinking about Adam's offer. The practical benefits were significant, but something else tugged at her, something she didn't want to examine too closely. The truth was, she had grown to care about Thomas. And if she was honest with herself, she had grown to care about Adam as well. Not in a romantic way, she told herself firmly. Simply as one person concerned for another's well-being. But that night, lying in her narrow bed, she found herself remembering the way Adam looked at her, the warmth in his voice when he thanked her, the strength and gentleness she saw in him. She thought about his loss, his loneliness, the way he loved his son so fiercely despite his own grief. Stop it, she chided herself. He's a widower still mourning his wife. You're his son's teacher." Nothing more. Saturday morning brought Martha Hendricks to her door again, this time with fresh eggs and news. "The harvest dance is next month," Martha announced. "Everyone in the county attends. Music, food, dancing. It's the social event of the season." "I'm not much of a dancer," Delilah admitted. "Doesn't matter. It's more about community, though there will be plenty of young men interested in dancing with the pretty new teacher." Martha winked. "Including my nephew. He's a lawyer, just set up practice in town. Very respectable." Delilah laughed. "I appreciate the thought, but I'm quite content focusing on my teaching. All work and no play makes for a dull life. You're young and pretty. You should enjoy yourself." Martha set the eggs on the table. "I hear Adam Miller stopped by the school again yesterday. That's the third week in a row he's picked up Thomas personally. He's an involved father. It's admirable. It's unusual for him. Before you came, he sent his foreman. Too painful to come to town, he said." Martha's eyes gleamed with speculation. "Now he's here every week. He wants to discuss Thomas's progress, that's all." Delilah kept her voice firm. "If you say so." Martha clearly didn't believe her. "But I saw the way he looked at you after church that first Sunday." "Adam Miller is a good man, Delilah. He deserves happiness again. And that boy needs a mother. His mother died less than 2 years ago. I doubt Mr. Miller is interested in remarrying." Delilah felt heat rise to her cheeks. "And I have no intention of being anyone's substitute mother or wife. I have a career. Love doesn't follow intentions or timelines. It simply happens." Martha patted her hand. "I'm not saying anything has to happen. Just don't close yourself off to possibilities." After Martha left, Delilah tried to dismiss the conversation, but the seed had been planted. She found herself thinking about Adam in ways that felt dangerous, wondering what it would be like to see him smile genuinely, to hear him laugh, to touch his hand for more than a brief handshake. She threw herself into lesson planning, determined to refocus on her purpose in Florence. September arrived with slightly cooler temperatures and the promise of autumn. The children were thriving. Even Thomas had become an enthusiastic student, particularly excelling in reading and history. He still had moments of sadness, times when he withdrew into himself, but they were less frequent. One afternoon, Delilah assigned the older children to write about their families. Thomas stared at his slate for a long time before slowly beginning to write. When she collected the assignments, his was the shortest, just a few sentences. "My family is my pa and me. We used to have my ma and almost had a baby sister, but they died. My pa works hard. I love him. Sometimes I'm sad, but Miss Preston says that's okay." Delilah's throat tightened as she read it. That evening, she carefully wrote a response on the bottom of his slate. "Thank you for sharing something so personal, Thomas. Your honesty is brave. Remember that your mother and sister will always be part of your family in your heart and memories. And yes, being sad is always okay." The next morning, Thomas arrived at school earlier than usual. He approached Delilah's desk hesitantly. "Miss Preston, I read what you wrote, about my ma and sister being in my heart." "Yes. My pa said something like that once, but I thought he was just trying to make me feel better." "But you said it too, so maybe it's true." Delilah knelt beside his desk. "It's absolutely true. The people we love never really leave us. They live on in our memories, in the things they taught us, in the ways they made us who we are. You think about your ma and pa every day. I do. Sometimes it makes me sad, but mostly it makes me grateful I had them for as long as I did." Thomas considered this. "I try not to think about my ma because it hurts." "That's understandable. But sometimes, allowing ourselves to remember, even though it hurts, can help us heal. The pain means we loved deeply. That's not something to run from. Miss Preston, would you ever want to meet my ma? I mean, see where she's buried. It's on our ranch. Sometimes I go there and talk to her." I'd be honored, Delilah said softly. If your father doesn't mind, I'll ask him. That Friday, Adam arrived at the usual time. Thomas ran to him immediately. Pa, can Miss Preston come to the ranch tomorrow? I want to show her Ma's grave. And maybe she could stay for lunch, please. Adam looked startled. He glanced at Delilah, who stood in the schoolhouse doorway. Thomas, I'm sure Miss Preston has other plans. Actually, I'd very much like to visit if the invitation is genuine. She walked toward them. Thomas has spoken about the ranch and I'd enjoy seeing it, but only if it's not an imposition. It's not an imposition. Adam's voice was rough. We'd be glad to have you. I can pick you up in the morning around 9 if that suits you. That would be perfect. Thomas whooped with delight, already planning what he would show her. That night, Delilah debated what to wear. She wanted to look presentable, but not overdressed for a ranch visit. She finally settled on a simple green calico dress that was sturdy enough for outdoors but still flattering. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear. Adam pulled up in a wagon precisely at 9. He helped Delilah onto the seat with a hand under her elbow, his touch brief but warm even through her sleeve. Thomas chattered throughout the journey, pointing out landmarks and excitedly describing the ranch. Adam said little, but Delilah noticed him glancing at her occasionally, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth as he listened to his son. The ranch appeared as they crested a low hill. It was far larger than Delilah had imagined, with a sprawling 2-story house, several barns and outbuildings, and endless fenced pastures where cattle grazed. Mountains rose behind it, purple and majestic. It's beautiful, Delilah breathed. My grandfather built the house, Adam said. Started the ranch with nothing but determination and a few head of cattle. My father expanded it and I've tried to keep it going. Pride colored his voice. It's Thomas's legacy, his future. They pulled up to the house. A Mexican woman in her 50s emerged, wiping her hands on her apron. Miss Preston, this is Rosa. She's been with us for 15 years. She cooks and helps with the house. Rosa smiled warmly. It's good to finally meet you. Thomas talks about you constantly. Miss Preston this, Miss Preston that. You've made a big impression. Rosa's son Miguel is my foreman, Adam added. His wife Alina helps Rosa in the house. They live in the cottage past the barn with their 3 children. The house interior was spacious and surprisingly elegant, with polished wood floors and comfortable furniture. But it felt empty somehow, as if the life had been drained from it. Can I show Miss Preston around? Thomas asked eagerly. After lunch, Adam said. Rosa's prepared a meal for us. They ate in a large dining room with windows overlooking the mountains. Rosa had prepared roasted chicken, potatoes, fresh bread, and apple pie. The food was delicious and the conversation flowed easily. Thomas told stories about the ranch animals, and Adam shared some of the history of the property. After lunch, Thomas grabbed Delilah's hand. Come on. I'll show you everything. He dragged her through the house first, pointing out his room, his father's room, the library his mother had loved. Then outside to see the barn, where he introduced her to his favorite horse, a gentle mare named Daisy. He showed her the chicken coop, the vegetable garden, the creek that ran through the property. Finally, he led her to a small fenced area on a rise overlooking the ranch. 2 headstones stood there, simple but well maintained. Fresh wildflowers lay on both graves. My pa brings flowers every week, Thomas said quietly. These are from yesterday. Delilah read the inscriptions. Sarah Elizabeth Miller, beloved wife and mother, age 28. And tiny Emma Rose Miller, who had lived only a few hours. Your mother was very young, Delilah said softly. Pa says she was the most beautiful woman in Arizona territory. They met when she came to stay with her aunt in Florence. Pa says he knew the moment he saw her that he'd marry her. That's very romantic. He's been sad ever since she died. I try to be good so he won't be sadder, but sometimes I make him angry. Thomas traced a finger over his mother's name. I told her about you, about how you're a good teacher and you're nice to me. I think she'd like you. Delilah's eyes stung with tears. Thank you, Thomas. That means more to me than you know. Do you think she can hear me when I talk to her? I believe the people who loved us are never truly gone. So yes, I think she hears you. Thomas leaned against her side, and Delilah put an arm around his shoulders. They stood in silence for a few minutes, the wind rustling through the grass. Adam appeared at the bottom of the rise. He stopped when he saw them at the graves, a complex expression crossing his face. But he didn't interrupt, simply stood waiting until Thomas was ready. We should go back, Thomas said eventually. Pa has to check on some cattle. As they walked down the hill, Thomas ran ahead. Adam fell into step beside Delilah. Thank you for that, he said quietly. He doesn't usually bring anyone here. You must be very special to him. He's a wonderful boy. You should be proud. I am. Though I can't take much credit for how he's turned out. That's mostly Sarah's doing. She was the heart of our family. His voice roughened. I loved her more than I thought it was possible to love another person. When she died, I thought I'd die too. Almost wished I would. But Thomas needed me, so I kept going. Grief is the price we pay for love. The depth of your pain reflects the depth of your love for her. That's not something to be ashamed of. Sarah would have liked you. Adam stopped walking, turning to face her. You have the same gentle strength she did, the same ability to see into people's hearts. That's a beautiful compliment. It's the truth. His eyes held hers for a long moment. I'm glad you came today, Delilah. It was the first time he had used her given name. The sound of it in his deep voice sent warmth through her. I'm glad too, Adam. The ride back to town felt shorter. Thomas dozed against her shoulder, worn out from the excitement. Adam drove in comfortable silence, occasionally pointing out wildlife or landmarks. When they reached the schoolhouse, he helped her down from the wagon. Thank you for today, Delilah said. It was lovely. Come again, Adam said. Anytime. You're always welcome. That night, Delilah lay awake thinking about the day, about Sarah's grave and the fresh flowers. About the way Adam still spoke of his wife with such love. About Thomas's need for maternal affection. About her own growing feelings for both of them. This was dangerous territory. Adam was still in mourning. Even if he did develop feelings for her, they would always be secondary to what he felt for Sarah. Could she live with being second choice? With knowing she could never fully replace the woman he had loved so completely? These were questions she wasn't ready to answer. So she pushed them aside and focused on what she could control, being the best teacher possible for Thomas and the other children. October brought cooler weather and preparations for the harvest dance. The children buzzed with excitement, talking about who would attend and what they would wear. Even Thomas seemed interested, asking if his pa would take him. Are you going to the dance, Miss Preston? Thomas asked one afternoon. I haven't decided. I'm not much of a dancer. You should go. My pa's going. Rosa made him promise to take me. Delilah's heart skipped. Is he? That's nice. He hasn't been to a dance since before Ma died. Rosa says it's time. She says hiding on the ranch doesn't help anybody. Thomas lowered his voice conspiratorially. I think she's hoping he'll have fun, maybe smile more. Your father smiles, Delilah protested. Not really. Not the way he used to. I remember when he'd smile big and laugh loud. Now he just does this little smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Thomas demonstrated, and Delilah's heart ached at the accuracy of the assessment. The night of the harvest dance, Delilah dressed in her best gown, a deep blue silk that had been her mother's. She had modified it to fit her smaller frame, and it was the finest thing she owned. She pinned her blonde hair up, leaving a few curls loose around her face. Martha's nephew, a pleasant young man named Robert, offered to escort her. He was handsome in a conventional way and perfectly polite, but Delilah felt no spark of attraction. Still, it was nice to have company as they walked to the community hall where the dance was held. The hall was decorated with autumn leaves and harvested corn. Tables groaned under the weight of food brought by townspeople. A small band tuned their instruments in the corner. The room was already crowded with people in their finest clothes, laughing and talking. Delilah spotted Adam almost immediately. He stood near the back with Rosa and her family, looking uncomfortable in a black suit. Thomas was beside him, wearing a miniature version of his father's outfit. When Thomas saw her, he waved enthusiastically. "Miss Preston, you look pretty." Several heads turned. Adam's gaze found her and something flickered in his eyes. He said something to Rosa, then made his way across the room with Thomas in tow. "Miss Preston," he nodded politely. "You look lovely this evening." "Thank you, you both look very handsome." She smiled at Thomas. "That's a fine suit. Pa said I had to dress up. I wanted to wear my regular clothes." "Well, I think you look perfect." She glanced at Robert, who stood awkwardly beside her. "Mr. Miller, this is Robert Hendricks. Robert, this is Adam Miller and his son Thomas." The men shook hands, sizing each other up with the instinctive wariness of males. The band struck up a tune and couples began moving to the dance floor. "Would you care to dance, Miss Preston?" Robert asked. "Oh, I'm not really. She promised me the first dance," Adam interrupted. Both Delilah and Robert looked at him in surprise. "Didn't you, Miss Preston? As a thank you for having you out to the ranch." Delilah recognized the escape he was offering. "Of course. I'm sorry, Robert. Perhaps later." Robert looked disappointed but nodded graciously. "I'll hold you to that." Adam offered his arm. As they walked to the dance floor, Delilah whispered, "I didn't promise you a dance. You looked like you wanted an escape. Was I wrong?" "No, but that was presumptuous." "True, I apologize." They reached the dance floor and he turned to face her. "However, since we're here, we might as well actually dance. Unless you'd prefer I escort you back to young Hendricks. I suppose one dance won't hurt." Adam pulled her into the proper position for a waltz, one hand at her waist, the other holding her hand. Even through her gloves and his, she felt the warmth of his touch. They began to move and she was surprised by his grace. For such a large man, he was light on his feet. "You dance well," she observed. Sarah loved to dance. She insisted I learn properly. A shadow crossed his face at the mention of his wife. "We danced at our wedding until dawn." "That sounds magical." It was. They moved in silence for a moment. "I never thought I'd dance again. Rosa practically had to drag me here tonight, said it was time to rejoin the living." "Rosa sounds like a wise woman." "She is. She was Sarah's friend before she was mine. Stayed on after Sarah died, even though I know it was painful for her. She did it for Thomas, for me." He met Delilah's eyes. "I seem to be surrounded by remarkable women." Delilah felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Hardly remarkable, just doing what needs to be done." "That's what makes you remarkable. You don't realize your own strength." His hand tightened slightly at her waist. "Thomas talks about you constantly. Miss Preston says this. Miss Preston does that. You've become one of the most important people in his life." "He's become important to me as well. All my students have." "But Thomas especially, perhaps," she admitted. "He's a special boy, and I understand his pain." The music swelled, and Adam pulled her slightly closer. Probably too close for propriety, but Delilah didn't care. She was acutely aware of him, the breadth of his shoulders, the strength in his arms, the warmth of his body. His scent of soap and leather and something uniquely him. "Delilah," he said softly, and the sound of her name on his lips made her shiver. "I need to tell you something." The music ended, couples separated, applauding the musicians. The moment broke. Adam stepped back, and Delilah felt the loss of his warmth keenly. "What did you want to tell me?" she asked. Before he could answer, Robert appeared. "My turn, I believe." Adam's jaw tightened. "Of course. Thank you for the dance, Miss Preston." As Robert led her back onto the floor, Delilah looked over her shoulder. Adam stood at the edge of the crowd, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Then Thomas tugged on his sleeve and he turned away. Delilah danced with Robert, then with several other young men from town. They were all pleasant, but she found herself comparing each of them to Adam and finding them wanting. None had his quiet strength, his depth, the sense of controlled power barely leashed. She was catching her breath between dances when Martha found her. "You've been quite popular this evening. Half the men in the county want to dance with the pretty teacher. They're just being polite." "Ha, nothing polite about the way they're looking at you." Martha glanced across the room. "Though I notice you haven't danced with Adam again. He's been standing in that corner for the past hour, watching you dance with everyone else." Delilah followed her gaze. Adam was indeed watching her, a drink in his hand, his expression brooding. When he saw her looking, he raised his glass slightly in acknowledgement. He was about to tell me something when the dance ended, but then Robert interrupted. "Well, perhaps you should give him another chance. Go ask him to dance. It's modern times. Women are allowed to be forward." "I couldn't possibly." "Of course you can. Go on. Before one of these eager young men claims you again." Before she could lose her nerve, Delilah crossed the room. Adam watched her approach, straightening from his slouch against the wall. "Mr. Miller," she said formally, "I believe I owe you a dance. You rescued me from an awkward situation earlier. It's only fair I return the favor." "Am I in need of rescue? You look like you'd rather be anywhere else. Dancing with me might provide a distraction." A genuine smile crossed his face, the first real smile she had seen from him. It transformed his features, making him devastatingly handsome. How could I refuse such a flattering invitation? This dance was different from the first. They knew each other better now, and the earlier awkwardness was gone. They moved together naturally, as if they had been dancing together for years. "You wanted to tell me something earlier," Delilah prompted. "Yes." Adam hesitated. "I've been thinking about what you said about healing, about allowing ourselves to remember even though it hurts. I've avoided remembering for so long because the pain was unbearable. But tonight, dancing with you, I found myself thinking about Sarah without it destroying me, remembering the good times rather than just the loss. That's a sign of healing. Maybe, or maybe it's something else." His eyes held hers intently. "Maybe it's a sign that I'm finally ready to live again instead of just existing." Delilah's breath caught. "Adam, I know it's too soon. I know people will think I'm disrespecting Sarah's memory, but the truth is, I think she'd want me to move forward. She'd want Thomas to have a complete family again. She'd want me to be happy." He paused. "She'd like you, Delilah, and I think you would have liked her." "I know I would have." Delilah's heart pounded. "She raised a wonderful son and loved an extraordinary man. How could I not admire her?" "You're an extraordinary woman yourself. Kind, intelligent, patient, beautiful inside and out." His hand at her waist pulled her closer. "I've tried not to notice, tried to keep my distance. But every time you smile at Thomas, every time you show him the kindness and understanding he needs, every time you look at me with those compassionate eyes, I find myself feeling things I thought died with Sarah." "Adam, I don't know what to say." "Say you feel something too. Tell me I'm not imagining this connection between us." The music was ending. In a moment they would be separated again, the spell broken. Delilah made a decision. You're not imagining it. I feel it too. Adam's eyes blazed with something fierce and warm. Then have dinner with me tomorrow. At the ranch. Just the two of us. Thomas can eat with Rosa's family. Let me court you properly, Delilah Preston. What about Sarah will always be part of me, but my heart has room for both the past and the future. If you can accept that, if you can be patient with me as I navigate this, then I'd like the chance to see where this leads. The music stopped. They stood facing each other in the middle of the dance floor, oblivious to the other couples dispersing around them. Yes, Delilah whispered. I'd like that very much. Adam's smile was brilliant. Tomorrow, then, I'll pick you up at 5. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Delilah danced and chatted and ate, but her mind was on Adam, on the way he had looked at her, on the possibility unfurling before them. She saw him leave early with Thomas, but before he went, he caught her eye across the room. The promise in that glance warmed her from the inside out. Martha cornered her as the dance was winding down. Something happened. I can see it on your face. Adam asked me to dinner tomorrow. Martha squealed with delight. I knew it. I knew there was something between you two. Oh, this is wonderful. It's just dinner, and we have to be careful. People will talk. Let them talk. Adam Miller deserves happiness, and so do you. Don't let fear or propriety keep you from something good. That night, Delilah lay in bed replaying every moment of the evening. Adam's touch, his words, the intensity in his eyes. She was falling for him. No, if she was honest, she had already fallen. Somewhere between that first meeting after church and tonight, her feelings had shifted from concern to affection to something deeper and more profound. She loved him, and she loved Thomas. The realization should have terrified her, but instead it felt right, like coming home. Sunday afternoon, Delilah dressed carefully in a rose-colored dress that made her skin glow. She had taken extra care with her hair, arranging it in a soft style that framed her face. When she heard the wagon outside, her heart raced. Adam looked freshly shaved and wore a clean shirt. He helped her onto the wagon seat with careful courtesy, his hand lingering on hers for a moment longer than necessary. You look beautiful, he said quietly. Thank you. You look quite handsome yourself. They rode toward the ranch in companionable silence. The October landscape was lovely, with golden grasses and changing leaves on the cottonwoods along the creek. The air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of sage and dust. At the ranch, Thomas greeted them enthusiastically. Miss Preston, are you staying for dinner? I am. Rosa made something special. She said it's a celebration dinner but wouldn't tell me what we're celebrating. He looked between them curiously. Are you celebrating something? Just a nice autumn evening, Adam said smoothly. Now, you're eating with Miguel's family tonight, remember? I know. Elena said I could help with the new puppies after dinner. He hugged Delilah quickly. Have fun, Miss Preston. After Thomas left, Adam led Delilah to the dining room. Rosa had outdone herself. The table was set with fine china and candles. The meal was elaborate: roasted beef, vegetables from the garden, fresh bread, and a chocolate cake for dessert. Rosa is going to spoil us, Delilah said. She's thrilled about this. She's been after me for months to start living again, as she puts it. Adam pulled out a chair for Delilah. She approved of you from the moment Thomas started talking about you. They talked throughout the meal, conversation flowing easily. Adam told her more about the ranch, about his plans for expanding the herd, about his hopes for Thomas's future. Delilah shared stories from her childhood in Boston, about her parents and the life she had left behind. After dinner, Adam suggested a walk. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They strolled toward the creek, their pace leisurely. I need to be honest with you, Adam said as they walked. I'm not good at this, at courting. Sarah was the only woman I ever courted, and that was 12 years ago. I'm out of practice. You're doing fine, Delilah assured him. I'm also aware that I come with complications. A son who needs attention, a ranch that demands constant work, memories of a wife I'll always love. He stopped walking, turning to face her. It wouldn't be fair to pursue this without making sure you understand what you'd be taking on. I understand, and I'm not frightened by complications. Thomas is a joy, not a burden. The ranch is part of who you are, and I respect that. As for Sarah, I would never expect you to forget her or stop loving her. She gave you Thomas. She shaped who you became. Honoring her memory honors the life you built together. Adam cupped her face gently. How did I get so lucky as to find you? I think we found each other at exactly the right time. He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his lips met hers in a kiss that was gentle and searching. Delilah's eyes fluttered closed as warmth spread through her. This was nothing like the chaste pecks she had received from overeager suitors in Boston. This was real and deep and full of promise. When they separated, Adam rested his forehead against hers. I want to do this right. Court you properly. Give us time to be sure. I'm already sure, Delilah whispered. But I understand the need for caution. We have Thomas to think about, and your position in the community. And your reputation. I won't have people thinking ill of you. He kissed her forehead. But know this, Delilah Preston. My intentions are serious. I'm courting you with the goal of marriage, if you'll have me when the time is right. Then we're courting with the same intentions. They walked back to the house hand in hand, hope and happiness settling around them like a warm blanket. The next weeks were the happiest Delilah had known since her parents died. Adam came to town 3 times a week now, always with a legitimate excuse, picking up Thomas, bringing supplies for the school, or discussing Thomas's progress. But everyone knew the real reason was to see Delilah. They were careful to maintain propriety. Their conversations took place on the schoolhouse steps or in the presence of others. But stolen glances and brief touches spoke volumes. The whole town watched the courtship with approval. Adam Miller was well liked and respected. People wanted to see him happy again. Thomas was thrilled, though they hadn't told him explicitly about their courtship. He simply knew that Miss Preston came to the ranch most Sundays for dinner, and that his father smiled more than he had in years. In early November, Adam invited Delilah to ride out with him to check on the cattle. It was a brilliant autumn day, cool but sunny. Delilah borrowed a split skirt from Martha and wore sturdy boots. Adam saddled the gentle mare Daisy for her. "Have you ridden much?" he asked. "Some when I was younger, but not in years. Daisy will take good care of you. She's steady as a rock." He helped her mount, his hand strong on her waist. "Just relax and let her do most of the work." They rode out across the range, Adam on his big bay gelding. The ranch land stretched for miles, rolling hills dotted with grazing cattle. Adam pointed out landmarks and explained his operation. Delilah was impressed by his knowledge and the obvious pride he took in his work. They stopped by the creek for lunch. Rosa had packed sandwiches and apples. They sat on a blanket Adam spread under the cottonwoods, watching the water flow past. "I love it out here," Delilah said. "It's so peaceful. I understand why you never want to leave. This land is in my blood. My grandfather fought for it, my father built it up, and I've maintained it. Someday it'll be Thomas's." He picked up her hand, lacing their fingers together. "But it's lonely, Delilah. I've been lonely for so long. Having you here makes me realize what I've been missing. I've been lonely too. Teaching fills my days, but not my heart. These past weeks, being with you and Thomas, have shown me what a real home feels like." Adam pulled her close. "I want to give you that home. I want to marry you, Delilah. I know it's fast. I know people will say it's too soon after Sarah. but I'm a straightforward man. When I know what I want, I go after it, and I want you as my wife, as Thomas's mother, as my partner in this life." Delilah's heart soared. "Are you proposing?" "Not yet. Not officially. I want to do it properly with a ring and the right words. But I'm telling you my intentions so you have time to think, to be certain." He kissed her temple. "This is a big decision. Marriage to a rancher isn't easy. The work is hard and never-ending. The isolation can be difficult, and taking on a ready-made family has its own challenges. I've already thought about all of that, and my answer will be yes whenever you officially ask." She turned to face him fully. "I love you, Adam. I love Thomas. I want to build a life with both of you." His eyes glistened. "I love you too. I wasn't sure I could love again after Sarah. But you've taught me that the heart has an infinite capacity for love. Loving you doesn't diminish what I felt for her. It's different but equally real." They kissed under the cottonwood trees, the creek babbling beside them, the sky vast and blue overhead. It felt like a promise, a new beginning. That evening, when Adam took Delilah back to town, he stopped the wagon before reaching the schoolhouse. "I'm going to tell Thomas soon, about us, about my intentions. I think he already suspects, but I want to make sure he's comfortable with this before we proceed." "Of course. His feelings are paramount. He loves you already. I'm not worried about his approval, but I want him to feel included. This affects his life as much as ours. You're a wonderful father, Adam Miller." "I try. It's harder without Sarah, but I do my best." He squeezed her hand. "I'll talk to him this week. And then, if all goes well, I have a question to ask you." The anticipation was delicious torture. All week, Delilah wondered what Adam was saying to Thomas, how the boy was reacting, whether everything would work out as they hoped. Friday afternoon, both Adam and Thomas came to pick up Thomas after school. Thomas ran inside, his face split in a huge grin. "Miss Preston, my pa told me you're going to marry us." Delilah laughed at the phrasing. "Well, he hasn't officially asked me yet, but you'll say yes, right?" "Please say yes. I want you to be my new mother. I mean, not instead of my real mother, but in addition to her. Pa explained it to me. He said I can love both of them and it doesn't make me disloyal." "That's absolutely true." Delilah knelt to his level. "If your father asks and I say yes, I would be honored to be your stepmother, Thomas. You're a wonderful boy and I love you very much." Thomas threw his arms around her neck. "I love you too, Miss Preston. I hope you say yes. Why don't you call me Delilah from now on?" "If that's all right with your father." "Can I, Pa?" Thomas looked at Adam, who stood in the doorway. "If Miss Preston, I mean Delilah, doesn't mind, then yes." Adam's expression was soft as he watched them. Thomas hugged her again, then ran outside to where Rosa waited in the wagon. Adam approached, stopping just in front of Delilah. "He's very happy," Delilah observed. "We both are." Adam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I wanted to do this somewhere more romantic, but I can't wait any longer. And somehow, here in the schoolhouse where you first started teaching Thomas, where you first started changing our lives, feels right." He opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band set with a small diamond. "It's not much. Ranching doesn't make a man rich. But it's honest work and I can provide for you and Thomas." "It's perfect," Delilah whispered. Adam took her hand. "Delilah Preston, you came into my life when I had given up on happiness. You showed my son kindness and understanding when he needed it most. You made me believe I could love again. Would you do me the great honor of becoming my wife?" "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. Then he kissed her, deep and sweet and full of promise. When they separated, both were smiling. "I want to marry you soon," Adam said. "I don't see the point in a long engagement, unless you want a big wedding with all the frills. I just want to marry you. Soon is perfect." They decided on a December wedding, giving them about 6 weeks to prepare. It would be a simple ceremony in the Florence church, followed by a reception at the ranch. Rosa was thrilled and immediately began planning the celebration feast. The town buzzed with news of the engagement. Most people were happy for them, though a few matrons clucked about the speed of the courtship. But even the critics had to admit that Adam and Thomas both seemed happier than they had in almost 2 years. Delilah continued teaching through November, but she and the school board agreed she would finish at the end of the year. She would still help Thomas with his studies at home, and they discussed the possibility of her tutoring other ranch children in the area once she was settled. Martha helped Delilah prepare for the wedding. She altered one of Sarah's old dresses, a beautiful cream silk that had been saved in a trunk. Adam had offered it after consulting with Thomas, wanting Delilah to wear something that connected her to the family she was joining. "Sarah would want this," he told her. "She'd want you to have something special, and it seems fitting somehow, like she's giving us her blessing." The weeks flew by in a flurry of preparation. Delilah was nervous about becoming an instant mother and ranch wife, but excited too. She studied Rosa's cooking techniques and asked questions about ranch management. She spent as much time as possible with Thomas, building their relationship. The night before the wedding, Delilah stayed at the church rectory at Martha's insistence. "Bad luck for the groom to see the bride before the ceremony," she declared. Delilah lay awake late into the night, thinking about how much her life was about to change. Tomorrow she would become a wife, a mother, a rancher's partner. It was terrifying and wonderful all at once. The morning of December 15th dawned cold and clear. Martha helped Delilah dress in the cream silk gown. It fit perfectly after the alterations. Martha arranged her hair in an elegant updo and attached a simple veil. "You look beautiful," Martha said, tears in her eyes. "Adam is a lucky man." "I'm the lucky one." The church was packed with townspeople and ranchers from throughout the county. As Delilah walked down the aisle on Sheriff Morgan's arm, having no father to give her away, she saw only Adam. He stood at the altar in a black suit, his eyes fixed on her with such love and devotion that her breath caught. Thomas stood beside him as best man, grinning widely. When Delilah reached them, Thomas whispered loudly, "You look really pretty, Delilah." Soft laughter rippled through the church. The minister began the ceremony. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony." Delilah barely heard the words. She was lost in Adam's eyes, in the warmth of his hands holding hers, in the reality of this moment she had never dared dream possible just a few months ago. "Do you, Adam Robert Miller, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." His voice was strong and sure. "And do you, Delilah Jane Preston, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do." They exchanged rings. Adam's hands shook slightly as he slid the band onto her finger, but his voice was steady as he repeated his vows. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Adam cupped Delilah's face gently and kissed her. The congregation erupted in applause. Thomas hugged them both, and Delilah felt a joy so complete it seemed to fill every corner of her soul. The reception at the ranch was lively and warm. Rosa had prepared a feast. The house was decorated with pine boughs and ribbons. People danced and ate and toasted the happy couple. Even the few who had initially disapproved of the quick courtship seemed caught up in the celebration. As evening fell and guests began departing, Delilah found herself standing on the porch with Adam, watching Thomas play with Miguel's children in the yard. "Happy?" Adam asked, his arm around her waist. "Happier than I've ever been. This is your home now, Delilah Miller." He kissed the top of her head. "You belong here with us." Thomas ran up the porch steps. "Are you really my mother now, really and truly?" Delilah confirmed. "Good." He hugged them both. "I'm tired. Can I go to bed?" "Of course." Delilah walked him inside and up to his room, following the motherly instinct that came naturally. She helped him change into his nightshirt and tucked him into bed. "Delilah," he said sleepily, "I'm glad you came to teach school. I'm glad you didn't leave like the others." "So am I, sweetheart." "So am I." She kissed his forehead and left him to sleep. Adam waited in the hall, and together they went to the room they would now share. Someone, probably Rosa, had lit candles and turned down the bed. Adam closed the door and pulled Delilah into his arms. "My wife," he murmured against her hair. "I thought I'd never say those words again, never feel this way again." "I thought I'd be alone forever," Delilah admitted. "My parents were gone. I had no family. Teaching was my whole life. But you and Thomas have given me something I didn't even know I was missing. A family." "A family," she agreed. They came together with a passion that had been building for weeks, expressing their love in the most intimate way. Later, lying in each other's arms, Adam traced patterns on her shoulder. "Sarah came to me in a dream last night," he said quietly. "I know that sounds foolish. It doesn't. What did she say?" "She told me she was happy for us, that she loved Thomas and wanted him to have a mother's love again, that loving you didn't mean forgetting her." He paused. "She said you were exactly what we needed." Tears pricked Delilah's eyes. "I hope I can live up to that." "You already have." Adam kissed her softly. "Thank you for taking a chance on a broken widower and his troubled son. Thank you for teaching me that love can come more than once, that hearts can heal and grow and open again." She snuggled closer to him. "You became my greatest lesson, Adam Miller. You taught me what real love looks like." Winter passed in a blur of happiness. Delilah adjusted to ranch life more easily than she had expected. Rosa was patient in teaching her cooking and household management. Miguel's wife, Elena, became a close friend. And Thomas bloomed under the attention of having a mother again. Delilah continued Thomas's education at home, and word spread. Soon, she was tutoring several other ranch children 3 days a week, holding informal classes in the ranch house parlor. Adam built her a small schoolroom in one of the converted outbuildings by spring. As the seasons changed, Delilah's love for Adam deepened. She learned his moods, his preferences, the way his eyes crinkled when he was truly amused. She discovered that beneath his stoic exterior was a man of deep feeling and surprising tenderness. He was affectionate and attentive, making her feel cherished every day. Adam, in turn, found that his heart had indeed healed enough to love fully again. Delilah brought light and laughter back into the house. Her presence made the ranch feel like a home instead of just a place to work and sleep. He loved watching her with Thomas, seeing the bond deepen between them. By late spring, Delilah suspected she might be pregnant. She waited until she was certain before telling Adam. They were sitting on the porch after dinner, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and purple. "Adam, I have something to tell you." He turned to her, immediately attentive. "What is it?" "We're going to have a baby. Sometime in early October, I think." His face went through a series of expressions: shock, fear, and finally joy. "A baby? Are you certain?" "As certain as I can be." "Are you happy?" "Happy and terrified." He pulled her close. "When Sarah was pregnant with Emma, I was so excited. And then I lost them both. I don't think I could survive losing you, Delilah. You won't lose me. I'm young and healthy. Rosa will help, and we'll get the doctor from Florence." She cupped his face. "I know you're scared, but we can't let fear steal our joy." "You're right. You're always right." He kissed her deeply. "A baby. Thomas is going to be so excited." They told Thomas at breakfast the next morning. His reaction was everything they could have hoped for. "A brother or sister, really?" He jumped up from his chair. "When? In the fall," Delilah said. You'll be a big brother, Thomas. That's an important job. I'll teach them everything. How to ride and rope and take care of the animals." He paused. "Will you still have time for me after the baby comes?" "Always," Delilah assured him. "Having a new baby doesn't mean we'll love you any less. If anything, our family is just growing bigger and stronger." Thomas hugged her tightly. Then he surprised them both by saying, "I wish my first mother could meet the baby. And you, Delilah, I think you would have been friends." "I think so too," Delilah said softly, tears in her eyes. The pregnancy progressed smoothly. As summer heat set in, Delilah moved more slowly, but she remained active, continuing to teach her small group of students until July. Adam was overly protective, constantly worrying, but Delilah handled his concern with patient amusement. Rosa and Alina fussed over her, preparing tiny clothes and blankets. Thomas talked constantly to her growing belly, telling the baby stories and making promises about all the things they would do together. In late September, Delilah's pains began. The labor was long and difficult, and Adam paced outside the bedroom, his fear almost palpable. Inside, Rosa and Alina attended Delilah, along with Dr. Harrison from Florence. After 12 hours, just as the sun rose on October 3rd, Delilah delivered a healthy baby boy. The cry that filled the room was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. "A son," Rosa said, placing the cleaned and wrapped infant in Delilah's arms. "Healthy and strong." "Get Adam," Delilah whispered, exhausted but elated. Adam burst into the room moments later, his face pale. When he saw Delilah alive and well, holding their son, his knees nearly buckled with relief. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the tiny face peeking out from the blanket. "He's perfect," Adam breathed. "You're both perfect. Are you all right? Was it very bad?" "It was worth it." Delilah placed the baby in his arms. "Meet your son." Adam held the infant with practiced ease despite his trembling hands. Tears ran down his face unchecked. "Thank you. Thank you for being strong, for giving us this gift, for being all right." "What should we name him?" Delilah asked. They had discussed names but hadn't decided definitively. Adam looked down at the baby, then at Delilah. "I'd like to name him James, after your father, James Adam Miller, if that's acceptable to you." "It's perfect." Delilah's own tears flowed freely. "Papa would have been so proud." Thomas was allowed in shortly after, creeping into the room with wide eyes. When he saw the baby, his face lit up. "Is that my brother?" "It is. This is James. Would you like to hold him?" Delilah asked. Thomas nodded eagerly. With Adam's help, he sat in a chair and held the baby carefully. "Hi, James. I'm your big brother, Thomas. I'm going to take really good care of you and teach you everything I know." The baby's tiny hand closed around Thomas's finger, and the boy's eyes filled with wonder. Adam stood behind him, one hand on Thomas's shoulder, his other arm around Delilah. In that moment, Delilah felt complete. This was her family. These were her people. This was home. The months that followed were chaotic and exhausting and wonderful. Baby James was a good baby, sleeping relatively well and growing strong. Thomas was a devoted big brother, always wanting to help. Adam was a doting father, constantly amazed by the miracle of his youngest son. Delilah discovered that motherhood suited her. She loved the weight of James in her arms, his milky smell, the way he looked at her with complete trust. She loved watching Adam with their son, seeing the fear that had haunted him slowly fade as James thrived. Christmas came, and the house was filled with joy. They decorated a tree, and Thomas helped James touch the ornaments, narrating everything to his baby brother. On Christmas morning, as they sat around the fireplace opening gifts, Adam pulled Delilah close. "A year ago, I never imagined I could be this happy again. I thought that part of my life was over." Life has a way of surprising us, Delilah said. The best things often come when we least expect them. You certainly came unexpectedly, a teacher from Boston, arriving in Florence with your carpet bag and your determination. He kissed her temple. You taught me so much more than I ever taught you. You taught me that love is infinite, that grief and joy can coexist, that healing is possible even when the wounds seem too deep. She leaned into him. You showed me what a real partnership looks like, how to build a family based on respect and affection and commitment. They watched Thomas carefully help James hold a new toy, the older boy's patience and gentleness, a testament to the love that filled their home. Winter gave way to spring, and James grew from an infant into a chubby, happy baby who smiled at everyone and laughed at Thomas's antics. Delilah resumed teaching her small group of ranch children, bringing James with her. The students adored having a baby in the classroom. One afternoon in April, as Delilah was cleaning up after lessons, Adam appeared with Thomas and James. Thomas took the baby from her arms and Adam led her outside. I want to show you something. They walked to the small cemetery on the rise. Delilah hadn't been there since that first visit. Adam had tended it alone, a private ritual she respected. Now she saw that he had added a bench and planted flowers. I wanted to bring you here, Adam said, because I need to tell Sarah something and I want you present. He stood before the headstones and Delilah stood beside him. Adam cleared his throat. Sarah, I need you to know that I'll always love you. You gave me 11 wonderful years and a beautiful son. You made me the man I am. Losing you nearly destroyed me, but it also taught me how precious life is, how important it is to cherish every moment. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. I want you to know that I've found love again. Delilah has brought light back into my life and been the mother Thomas needed. We have a son together, James. And I'm happy, Sarah. Truly happy. I hope you're at peace knowing that we're all okay, that we're thriving, that your death, as painful as it was, ultimately led us to a new kind of joy. Delilah felt tears streaming down her face. Adam turned to her and took her hands. And I need to thank you, my love. Thank you for being patient with my grief, for understanding that loving you doesn't erase my past but builds on it. Thank you for loving Thomas as your own and giving me James. Thank you for making this ranch a home again. You don't need to thank me, Delilah whispered. This is exactly where I'm meant to be, with you, with our family. They stood in silence for a moment, the wind rustling through the grass. Then Adam led her back down the hill, where Thomas was playing with James on a blanket, their laughter carrying on the breeze. That evening, after the boys were asleep, Delilah and Adam sat on the porch swing, wrapped in a blanket against the cool spring air. I've been thinking, Adam said, about the future, about what we want for our family. What have you been thinking? That I'd like more children if you're willing. I'd like this house to be full of life and laughter. I want Thomas and James to have siblings. He looked at her earnestly. But only if that's what you want too. You're the one who bears the burden of pregnancy and childbirth. It's not a burden. It's a gift, Delilah smiled. I'd love to have more children, as many as God blesses us with. Good, that's good. He pulled her closer. I also want to expand the schoolroom, make it bigger so you can teach more children. I know how much you love teaching. I love it, but my priority is our family. You can do both. You're extraordinary that way. He kissed her softly. I'm so proud of you, Delilah, of everything you've accomplished, of the woman you are. I'm proud of us, of what we've built together. She rested her head on his shoulder. When I came to Florence, I was running from loss, looking for purpose. I never imagined I'd find love, find home, find everything I didn't even know I needed. I wasn't looking at all, thought I was done with that part of life, but you changed everything. His arm tightened around her. "You are my greatest blessing, Delilah Miller." They rocked gently on the swing, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. Inside the house, their children slept safely. Around them, the ranch settled into evening quiet. It was a moment of perfect peace, perfect contentment. The years that followed were full and rich. Delilah gave birth to two more children, a daughter named Emma Rose in 1885, named for the sister Thomas never knew, and another son named Daniel in 1887. The house was indeed full of life and laughter, just as Adam had hoped. Thomas grew into a fine young man, taking on more responsibility at the ranch. He never forgot his first mother, but he loved Delilah fiercely, calling her Mama without hesitation. When he was 17, he told her that she had saved his life, and probably his father's too, by coming to Florence all those years ago. James and Emma Rose and Daniel grew up knowing they were deeply loved. The ranch prospered under Adam's careful management. Delilah's school expanded, eventually educating more than 20 children from surrounding ranches. Adam remained devoted to Delilah, showing her every day through word and action how much he loved her. They had their challenges, as all families do, but they faced them together, with the strength that came from genuine partnership and deep affection. One evening, nearly 10 years after their wedding, Delilah and Adam stood on the same rise where Sarah and baby Emma were buried. They had brought flowers, a weekly ritual they now shared. As they turned to walk back down, Adam paused. "You ever regret it, coming to a dusty Arizona town to teach school, giving up your independence to become a rancher's wife?" "Never, not for a single moment." Delilah took his hand. "Coming here was the best decision I ever made. You and our children are my whole world. You saved us, you know, Thomas and me. We were just going through the motions of living. You taught us how to truly live again. You saved me too. I was alone in the world, pretending that teaching was enough. You gave me love and family and purpose beyond what I ever dreamed possible." They walked hand in hand down the hill as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. Ahead, the ranch house glowed with lamplight. Through the windows, they could see their children moving about, Thomas helping the younger ones with their evening chores. "That's home," Adam said softly. "That's everything that matters." "Yes," Delilah agreed, her heart full. "That's home." She had come to Florence as a teacher, expecting to educate children and find purpose. Instead, she had found love with a widowed cowboy who taught her that the heart could heal, that joy could follow sorrow, and that family could be built on the foundation of loss and rebuilt stronger than before. The greatest lesson she learned wasn't in the schoolhouse or from books. It was the lesson of love itself, patient and kind, constant and true, capable of overcoming any obstacle and healing any wound. Adam Miller had been her teacher in this, showing her through his own journey from grief to joy that life always offered second chances to those brave enough to take them. As they reached the house and stepped inside to the warm chaos of their family, Delilah sent up a silent prayer of gratitude. For Adam, for Thomas, for all their children, for the life they had built together in this wild, beautiful place. She had come to Arizona territory as a lonely young woman seeking purpose. She had found everything she never knew she needed, and more love than she had dared to dream possible. The teacher had become the student, and the widowed cowboy had taught her the most important lesson of all. That love, in all its forms, was worth the risk of pain, worth the work of building, worth every moment of joy and sorrow it brought. And that was a lesson she would carry in her heart for all the days of her life.